focusing on visa denials. And I think I'm going to move you guys over here. Let me move you guys over here. There you go. There you go. Much better. Much better. Hey guys. Hey guys. Hey. Hey, Melisha. I hope everybody's doing. We're live on TikTok. We're live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok, YouTube, and who else? We're live everywhere, and we're talking visa denials today. All right. Today, we're going to be talking about visa denials. As you recall, we went on this crazy masterclass journey as we talked about consular stuff, right? So we started out week 1, week 2, week 3, and week 4. And all we focused on was consular processing. And we said the consular processing is everything that happens overseas, everything that happens at a consulate, meaning we're no longer at USCIS. We're no longer at USCIS. We are at a consular overseas. So that could be a B1, B2 visa. That could be a F1. That could be a M, a J, or it could potentially mean we're filing for a family member who is not physically present inside the United States. So whenever we talk about consular processing, that's what we mean, that some part of the immigration process is not taking place inside of the United States. Tap the screen as you come in. So that's kind of how we started out the month, by looking at what is consular processing. Whenever somebody says consular processing, and I feel like this presentation should be taught by Consular Queen and not me. While I do a lot of work involving U.S. consulate, it is not the target or the focus of my practice. So whenever we think United States consulate, we have to think that someone is outside of the United States and they're trying to come into the United States. That is what we mean by consular processing. That is exactly what we mean by consular processing. So week 1, we said what takes place at these consulate. And it's hard to talk about consular processing, guys, without talking about the B1, B2 visa. The B1 for business, the B2 for pleasure. That's where we started. That's exactly where we started. So if we're drawing a roadmap, we can look at the role of the consulates, whether it's immigrant, meaning somebody wants to permanently live in the United States, or non-immigrant, someone is coming to visit. If you have missed Masterclass 1, Masterclass 2, or Masterclass 3, I'm going to encourage you to go back and watch them, because you can get some really, really good details. Legal Rebels, all the previous Masterclasses are inside of the of your membership area, so you shouldn't miss any. We've done Masterclass 1, Masterclass 2, Masterclass 3, Masterclass 4. Today, we're focusing on denials. So we're focusing on denials. Remember, we started out 1, 2, and 3, and we talked about the B1, the B2. We talked about the family processing that happens outside of the consulate. So today, I wanted to spend a little bit of time and not only review, but to also look at these denials. First of all, what do you do when you've done everything correct? Because remember, we said, if you're applying for example, a B1, or if you're applying for a B2 visa and that visa gets denied, what do you do? So today we are talking denials, and it happens. It happens. So go ahead and draw your chart, Rebels. We're doing immigrant, non-immigrant, immigrant, non-immigrant. Immigrant meaning you're coming to live, non-immigrant, you're only visiting. So immigrant means you're coming to live, non-immigrant, you're only visiting. I don't think my Sharpie's good enough, but Immigrant, you're coming to live inside of the United States. Non-immigrant, you're only coming to visit. And you have to go through a consulate based on the discussions we've had based on our 3 previous masterclasses. All right, so let's talk about the immigrant. Typically, the consulate comes into play when someone has applied for a visa for someone and they're outside of the country, or they have entered the country unlawfully. They're not eligible for adjustment to status, and now they have to go home. That is your immigrant visa, where you need to go back to a consulate. When you go back to the consulate, the first part of the visa may be approved. That I-130 may be approved. And we're only doing immigrant at this time, family-based, for example. The problem comes in because the consulate is going to look for admissibility. Are you admissible, legal rebels, to the United States? Are you admissible to the United States? That's what they're going to look for. So we have Jane, who is a US citizen. She files for her mother, who is living inside of her home country of Barbados. So once Jane does the I-130, once that I-130 is approved, and then it goes to the NVC, the National Visa Center, and then it goes to the US consulate in Barbados, that is when Jane will be processed. Jane's mother will be processed. A lot of people assume that because the I-130 is approved, nothing bad can happen. Absolutely nothing bad can happen. That is not the case, because once she goes to the consulate, Jane's mother, once she goes to the consulate, they are going to look to make sure she is admissible. Are there any charges? Are there anything we should know about, any bad entries into the United States? The consulate is going to look at all these things, and then they're going to make a determination as to whether or not Jane's mother is admissible. We're going to assume, for purposes of this conversation, legal rebels, that Jane's mother got denied. Because today, Masterclass number 4 is about visa denials. We're looking at the immigrant process, and then we're going to look at non-immigrant. Both are going to end in visa denials. So on the immigrant side, Jane, a US citizen, has filed for her mother, who's being processed in Barbados. The mother goes to the US consulate and is denied. Let me tell you, they will give you the basis of the denial as it pertains. Hey, victim visa, Victor, how are you? They're going to give you the basis of the denial. They're going to tell you why this immigrant visa has been denied. It could be drugs, it could be arrest, it could be bad entries. They're going to tell you why it's denied. In addition, Jane's mother might be eligible for a waiver. Thank you for joining my team. Jane's mother might be eligible for a waiver. Thank you for the gift, right? So we're looking at immigrant visa. Jane petitions for her mother. The mother is in Barbados and she gets denied. Typically, it could be a drug denial. It could be criminal. If you look at visa denials, it will range. A lot of people will say, I don't know why they denied my immigrant visa. They'll tell you for immigrant visa. They will tell you why it was denied. The question then begs itself, what remedy am I available for? So we're looking at Jane, US citizen. Her mother living in Barbados, her mother's visa was denied. Jane gets the option to look at any possible waivers. We spent a tremendous amount of time in the last 3 weeks talking about B1, B2. Let's look at the non-immigrant side of consular processing. So someone goes to the consulate and they're applying for a B1, B2. They're applying for a B1, B2, and that visa gets denied. They're applying for a B1, B2. They're applying for a B2 because they're coming for tourism. They're applying for a B1 because it's for business. Now, compared to Jane's mother, who is going for an immigrant visa, for the non-immigrant visa, they can just give you what we call 214B. They can just tell you a blanket 214B. In other words, you failed to show that you had enough ties to your home country. 214B, a denial on the non-immigrant side. The B1 has been denied. The F has been denied. Remember what we talked about in weeks 1, week 2, and week 3. We said it's super duper important, very important to show that you intend to return. Remember, guys, it's very important that we show that you intend to return. So if you apply for that B1, B2 visa and they give you a blanket denial, they're like, you know what? You're denied. It's a little bit harder. And we get the question a lot, what should I do? What should I do? I applied for my B1, B2 visa, Miss Wynter. I went to the U.S. consulate in Kingston, Barbados. I went to the U.S. consulate in Accra, and they did not give it to me. First of all, I want you to write this word down, discretionary. The granting of a U.S. visa is discretionary. In other words, they don't have to give it to you. You could wear a green sweater and they don't like the green sweater, and so they don't give you that visa. You can wear a red shirt and they don't give you the red shirt. So the question we ask, and today we're talking about visa denials, what do you do in the case? Remember Jane's mother, she can file a waiver. For all of you, one, we like to look at why was this visa denied? Remember, reapplying too soon can be detrimental. Reapplying too soon can be detrimental. Some people, they get the visa, they go for the visa appointment in February and they were denied, so they want to go back right away. We would recommend, Legal Rebels, if someone wants to reapply quickly, look at the application from the denial and see what else we can do. Remember, it's discretionary. So you don't want to go back too soon if you've not had a chance to change everything about the actual denial. It doesn't make sense you go back. So if that B1, B2 has been denied, people want to go to the embassy right away because they got to fix it. They're going to fix it and they're coming. I would say wait a little bit, put some time. And by some time, I would even recommend a year. I know Consular Queen, a year and a half, or if something changes, maybe something drastically changes in your world where you can say, you know what, some things have changed. I'm ready to go. Let's do a quick review. Let's just do a quick review. Week 1, we started out by talking about, we talked a little bit about the B1, B2 visa. What is that visa for, right? For those of you who do not know me, I'm attorney Diani Wynter Funde, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Wynter Immigration Law Academy here in Tampa, Florida. We started out this masterclass series for the month of September, focusing heavily on consular processing. Why? Not many people do a lot of work on consular processing. And we said, listen, the most common visa type that we do at the consulate is the B1 or the B2 visa. That B1 is for tourism, the B2 is for business. Combined purpose, B1, B2. And this week, we're talking about denials of the B1 for business or the B2 for visitor. Visa denials for our B1, my business users, it could mean that what you're doing in the US for business mimics employment. We're looking this week at visa denials, Legal Rebels. It means if someone comes to you and they said, Miss D, I had a B1 visa and they canceled it. You know what's possible? It could mean that you're mimicking working. It's almost like they're like, these trips look like you're working. What's going on? You just because you have a B1 does not mean that you can work inside of the United States. Here's some eligible activities on the B1. Business meetings allowed. Conferences and trade shows allowed. Training and consulting allowed. Business research allowed. Now, if it's a business meeting, it should not take 3 months or 4 months. So if you have a B1 business visa and it gets denied, it means that you may or may not mimic working. If you come to us, or if someone comes to you, legal representative, they're on a B1 and it gets denied, the first thing you want to do is challenge the denial. You do not want on the record of a business holder that they were working inside of the United States. And by challenging the record, I mean you can go to i94.gov. There's a site that you can go to CBP and you update, you explain what you were doing inside of the United States. You explain what you were doing inside of the United States. For example, they may say, why did you spend 4 months? You could say, look, I was here planning a conference and a trade show, or I was training my team. Guys, it cannot look like employment. Please keep that in mind. For the B2, when that visa is denied, especially if you're outside of the country or they turn you around, if they turn you around upon entry, that is called an expedited removal. And that's some serious business. It means you're using the visa for the purposes not intended, and they're even denying you entry. They're denying you entry. The B2 is only for tourism, leisure, social visits, medical treatment. You cannot use it to come and take care of your grandma in the US and have your auntie pay you. That is employment. That is employment. So you have to be extremely, extremely, extremely careful. Again, social visits, no social visit should be 4 months. No social visits should be 4 months. All right, another visa denial that we see, it happens at dual intent. Another visa denial we see happens at dual intent. For example, someone has a B1, B2, and they have a husband inside of the United States. I see this a lot. They have a husband who's a US citizen. The consular gets very, very, very picky if they think for a second you're coming to visit and you're not leaving. And it is a dilemma because you honestly could just be coming to visit. You really could just be coming to visit, but it becomes a dilemma. Let's talk about it. Your US citizen spouse lives inside of the United States. You have a B1, B2, and you're coming into the United States. They stop you at a port of entry and they look in your bag. You have your birth certificate, you have all your degrees, you have 6 bags. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. You will see cases even where victims visa Victor, you'll see cases where they will stamp and said not eligible for AOS. That is because the officer might let you in or they may let you in even for 2 weeks. In some cases, they can deny that visa. They can deny the visa. If they deny that visa again, the option might be to have that US citizen spouse petition for you. Can I get a denial if I'm going to visit my mom in the hospital? Remember, guys, when you're entering on the B1, B2, it is discretionary. When you're entering the United States on a B1, B2 visa, it is discretionary. They can stop you at the port of entry if they think for a second you're not coming back. you're not coming back. Can you get a visa for your fiance and get married? Yes, it's called a fiance visa. It's called a fiance visa. So we talk about the B1, B2, and we talk about the denial. The denial of the B1, B2 can also occur at the application phase. Remember, we talked about step one to apply for the visa is that you complete the application. Step two, you pay that fee. And step three, you start putting some stuff together. Now, when you go, legal rebels, when your client is going in for their interview, they must show that they intend to return. They must show that they intend to return, guys. They must show that they intend to return. So that could include your job letter. That could include any kind of ties you have to the country. You're a farmer. That could include bank statements. That could include titles to the car. So remember, visa denial can occur at the application phase. We started out by saying it's good to reapply. Please do not reapply too quickly. Don't reapply right away. Do not reapply right away. The documents for your application may be insufficient. So if you go for a B1, B2 visa, I would say a year and a half to get some of those financial documents together, to get a plan together. Why were you going to the United States to begin with? Is that the right visa for you? Remember, guys, the denial, we're doing visa denials today. Remember, it's discretionary. It's discretionary. So even though you think, I brought everything, Miss D, I brought the financial documents, I brought my itinerary and my travel plans, I brought the visa form like you told me, I brought my bank statement, I brought. It is discretionary. They do not have to grant you that visa. They don't. So remember, visa denials can occur at the application phase. A visa denial can occur when you're entering the United States, or a visa denial or cancellation of a visa can occur because of something you did inside of the United States. So there are different places where the visa denial can happen. Let's talk about B1, B2s and your interview. Everything you tell the consulate at the interview is going to come back later. Everything is highly documented. At your consular interview, everything is documented, legal rebels. So if we have someone coming in on an F, a student visa, a M, a J, a K, you name it, everything they tell the officer at the interview is being documented. So now you're at this beautiful interview at the consulate. You're at this interview at the consulate, and they ask you about your employment. They ask you, you know what, I've been employed at so-and-so for 10 years, JamPro. That was one of the big scandals we had out of Jamaica in the past couple of years. So you say, you know what, I've been employed at JamPro, and I want to go for a vacation. The officer says, yes, approved. Because remember, we said the denial can happen at different places of the process. So now this B1, B2 is approved. You enter the United States and you're trying to adjust or change your status. You're trying to adjust or change your status. At this interview to adjust or change your status, your DS-160 will be in play. The officers can and sometimes look at that DS-160. It is still in play. The DS-160 is in play. Whatever you put on the DS-160, I've seen where they referred to the DS-160 10, 12, 13, 14 years later. So please inform your clients, legal rebels, that they must be honest on the DS 160 because it can come back to haunt them. And this kind of goes all the way back to the beginning of our conversation when we talk about waivers. For that person who's looking to adjust or change their status, they may or may not need a waiver based on what was said. Visas. Here's one thing I want to point out. I want to point this out really good. There's a difference between your visa and the stamp that you get. There's a difference between the visa and your I-94 time of entry. The standard validity for a B1, B2 might be 10 years. Standard validity for some of those student visas might be the duration of the stay. A lot of people think that when you land, you have 10 years inside of the United States. That's not how it works. The I-94 determines how long you can stay inside of the United States. The I-94 determines how long you can stay inside of the United States. If you come across a client who is currently inside of the United States and they want to extend their stay, you need to look at how long were you given in the beginning. Do not assume that they were given 6 months. Do not assume they were given 6 months. So first you need to go to i94.gov and it will tell you how long this person was given inside of the United States. 45 days before that extension, before that expiration, you can file an extension. The extension can be done inside of the United States. The extension can be done inside of the United States. So, we're talking visa validity. We're talking visa denials. Hey, Midas, today we're talking those denials. Remember, I said the denials can occur application stage, interview, or upon entry. Let me tell you this. The denial can even occur after interview, but before you enter. Meaning you may have gotten an approval, and then after the consular officer went back, they might mean, wait, they didn't tell me this. So the denial can occur after you've been interviewed. Keep that in mind. I forgot about that part. Woo. Yes. The denial can occur after. Yes. So keep that in mind. If you need to reapply, so you got denied your B1, B2. If you need to reapply, I want you to think about the original application that was submitted. If you need to reapply, a denial, yeah, man, I did. Yes, I did. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. But keep in mind, we're talking about non-immigrant visas. It's discretionary. This is not a given. This is not a given. These are discretionary. Please keep that in mind. Does that make sense? It's discretionary. Victims visa, Victor. They don't have to approve it. And once they approve it, they can take it back at any time. That is why you'll hear people say, oh, they turned me back at the airport. They turn people back at the airport. So now we've said this visa is denied. We're looking at reapplication. Don't do it too soon. Rebels, what I want you to do is interview the individual to find out why the visa was denied before you even let them waste that money to reapply. Because a lot of people think, oh, I want to reapply right away. No, I want you to think about why the visa was denied first. And then you're going to go back and make sure you fix the information. Make sure it's accurate. Make sure it's accurate, and then you can probably work to prepare the client. Do some interview prep questions. Some of the common questions are where you're going, family members inside of the United States. Remember, if you are for example, a spouse of a U.S. citizen, and you're applying for a B1, B2 visa, and they know your spouse is in the United States, it's highly unlikely that they may deny that visa. It's highly unlikely. Absolutely. Do the mock interviews and play around. Play around. You have to look at the denial. Don't just say, oh, you should reapply. No, 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 no. Look, thank you for joining my team. You got to look first to see the basis of the denial. Thank you for the gift. Thank you for the gift. Yes, there is. You can look at the former DS-160. Look at their DS-160 to see what was said. Look at their DS-160. Thank you for the gifts. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much, Alvin. Thank you, Alvin. You're the best. You're so kind. I appreciate you. Appreciate you. Guys, tap up the screen. Get to 10,000. Get to 10,000. All right. Again, before you reapply, we want to make sure we understand that there were no misrepresentations. So even if it's immigrant or non-immigrant, it doesn't matter. You need, before you reapply, you got to look, were there any misrepresentation? Guys, another word for misrepresentation is lie. Were there any lies? Was the application incomplete? What are some things that I can change? Thank you. Thank you, Alvin. So before you just simply take your money and send it back to USCIS, look at it and say, what are some things I can change on this application? Was I honest enough? Was I telling the truth? Or maybe I played down my qualifications. You know what? Maybe, I'm applying for this B1, B2, and I didn't want to tell them I own a business because I was just raising chickens. Or I didn't tell them about my trade. I have a skill, or I've been working at the same job for 40 years. That is why it's important that we have to look first to the basis of the denial. Make sure the application was not incomplete. So it's not so much as, you know what, they denied me now. For some people, they'll say, I'm never going again. I know some people like, Miss Wynter, I went 6 times. I'm never going again. I get that sometimes they're never going again. They're never going again. So visa denials, where can it begin? Application phase, interview phase, or upon entry. Something can happen depending on whether it's immigrant or non-immigrant. Immigrants, you may have waivers. There's some kind of waiver. Non-immigrants, it's going to start to get a little tricky because we have to look again, what is the basis for the denial? Guys, I'm attorney Deani Wynter, and I do a masterclass every Sunday evening where we talk about all things immigration. This week, we wrapped up week 4 of our masterclass series where we're talking about consular stuff. Everything that happens outside of the United States is considered consular so long as you're looking to come into the United States. I am the founder and CEO of the Wynter Immigration Law Academy. I am also the founder of Wynter Law Practice, an immigration law firm based in Tampa, Florida. Legal Rebels, there are 4 masterclass in this series on all things consular. We're ending out the month of September strong. October we'll be back. Legal Rebels, put in the group, in the Facebook group, what topics you want us to cover. What topics you want us to cover for October. Coming to you live from Jamaica, Legal Rebels, I'm attorney Deani Wynter. Walk good.